get our acceleration here and race this Prius. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy, and in today's video, we're gonna be going over a 2021 Honda Ridgeline HPD edition, and we'll be getting into what all of that really means in today's video. But first and foremost, a huge shout out and thank you to Stockton 12 Honda here in Utah for giving me some time with this Ridgeline. Check out their inventory in the link below. Let's get straight into the video. Under the hood of the Ridgeline, we have a naturally aspirated 3.5 liter V6 that goes through a 9-speed automatic transmission. Fuel economy is 18 around town and then 24 on the highway, with power outputs being 280 horsepower and then 262 pound-feet of torque. Let's go over the front end of the Ridgeline. So first off, if we go over the hood of the Ridgeline, this hasn't changed a ton since they did this kind of like refresh, redesign. And coming down to the lights, this is where things look a little bit different. You still get the cool like LED accent light with the full projector bulbs, but again, it looks a little bit different. And then you got the turn signal just down below. And then you do have the Honda logo that doubles as a sensor. Notice how everything's pretty much been like all blacked out here from a front end perspective as kind of like part of this sport package. I think it looks really good. But the funny thing is, if you look at this like head on from the front angle, it kind of looks similar to another Honda. But yeah, that's the front of the Ridgeline. So coming around the side here, we've got two 65mm tires wrapped around 18-inch wheels in the front and over in the rear as well. So we've got some stock stuff happening, but then also some aftermarket stuff happening on this particular truck. So these wheels are a factory option. It's part of this HPD package. I think they look fantastic. Like the gold against this black paint just looks perfect. Now these tires are aftermarket. You can see super aggressive. And I mean, this is one of the first changes I'd make to the Ridgeline is get aggressive tires. Now this truck does have a 2-inch lift, which is also been added to it, and that's why the stance is so crazy on the Ridgeline. But yeah, other than that, you guys can see everything's pretty much like all blacked out on the side. We've got a decal on the back, which we'll go over in just a moment. But yeah, this truck with a lift looks really good. Now let's pop into the bed of the Ridgeline. So first off, before we go over the bed, payload capacity is about 1,543 pounds. And then coming to the bed itself, you actually have a composite bed from the factory, which I think is a really nice option. So you don't have to worry about a liner because, well, everything is already all protected. And then from a size perspective, I mean, it's a really good size for a mid-sized truck. And I love how you've got like, obviously no snow here, but then you got the snow here, which kind of gives us some contrast with the truck. But yeah, that's the bed of the Ridgeline. Now let's get into the whole tailgate situation. Anyone that's familiar with the Ridgelines know that Honda pretty much kind of like invented the whole like multi-function tailgate situation. So you've got this handle right here, and then you can open up the tailgate pretty much just like a little barn door, and then you do get extra storage space underneath. So you press this little button right here, and then it'll lift it up, and then you've got like more storage space underneath the bed, and then that's also where they put the spare tire. So like all this space on most trucks that isn't used at all, they actually make it like super practical and usable here on the Ridgeline, which I think is just a really cool thing. And then yes, notice that you can lock it if you want, but it's also like automatic. That's why it has that little button right there that opens it, so you have to have the key on you to do that. But yeah, that's kind of like the whole like tailgate situation on the Ridgeline. So yeah. Now let's go over the rest of the rear of the Ridgeline. So first off, now you guys know what HPD stands for. It's Honda Performance Development, and I love kind of like the overall like decal. Definitely makes the truck look cooler. And then I love the C-shaped light there here in the rear. And then you've got your regular badging. You can see that you've got the Sport All-Wheel Drive badge, and then you've got another HPD badge. The exhaust tips are massive. I think it looks so cool. Towing capacity is about 5,000 pounds with the Ridgeline, and that's everything for the rear. Now let's go over the door panel here in the Ridgeline. So first off, you got soft touch. We're actually going to rest your arm with some nice stitching, and it's decided to snow quite a bit now. Anyways, coming here to the seats in the back, I love the gray cloth here, and I love the pattern on it. The pattern's definitely pretty neat. And then notice it gives you a little thing here, so you pull the handle, and then that's what allows you to lift up the seat, so you can use kind of like a flat loading floor here in the back. But let's actually pop into the Ridgeline and get out of this snow. So first off, headroom is actually really good for a mid-sized truck. I'm 5'11", and then legroom's actually pretty good as well. Usually I'm kind of used to my legs being squished, but I can actually kind of stretch them out a little bit. Got a couple of vents back here and then some extra storage. And then this does pull down to be a gigantic armrest with some cup holders. I love how like massive this is. Like the cup holder area is just like tiny, and then you have like massive armrest area. It's pretty awesome. But it's the back of the Ridgeline. Now let's go over the door panel here in the front. So again, you've got all the soft touch here with the stitching all across, the window controls right here, the door lock and unlock, and that's just the gas cap release. And then here are the seats at the front. So same material as the back. You've got the same cool design here in the center portion. They are manually adjustable. And then you've got this for the little hood latch release. You've got all of your pedals right here. That's actually just for the brake. And then you've got your mirror adjustment up above. That's your eco mode. And then you've got your cargo light, stability control. That's for your collision assistance, and then your lane departure assistance. The steering wheel is manually adjustable, and well, there's one more look before we get out of the snow. Now here's our steering wheel in the Ridgeline. So the whole like texture around the steering wheel actually kind of has like a roughness to it, which is nice so that your hands don't like slide all over the place. And then you've got your cruise control right here with your lane keep assist. And then you've got some controls for the center stack. You've got your voice command phone controls on the other side. And then you've got kind of like more controls for the radio. You actually do get paddle shifters here on the back. So if you want to shift the gears yourself at that 9-speed, you can. And then you got the stalk for the lights and the turn signal, and then the windshield wiper stalk on the other side. And that's all for the steering wheel. Now here's a center gauge cluster. I think it looks pretty cool. It almost looks like a dog toy, like the shape of it, kind of like the outlining and everything. But anyways, you've got that screen there in the center, which you can scroll through. Basically just a couple different menus here on the Ridgeline, just give you different bits of information on the truck itself. Like we can see the tire pressure, for example, and then you can see like the fuel economy, all that. Nothing too crazy. Most modern cars have something like this. And then I do like the fact that it has a digital speedo. I definitely prefer digital to analog on the speedo side of things. Now here's our center infotainment system for the Ridgeline. If we pop it into reverse, you can see the backup camera is going to pop up. We do get trajectory lines. And if you turn the steering wheel, it does turn with the steering wheel. Now there's a couple different viewpoint modes, and every single Honda has this, but this is the best one for the Ridgeline because obviously it's a truck, so people are going to tow with it. You can zoom in on the receiver hitch, so then it makes hooking up to a trailer a little bit easier. Now as for the rest of the infotainment system, I actually like the look of this version of it because it's kind of like all red and it's actually really dark, so it's kind of hard to see on the camera. Hopefully that's a better viewpoint for you guys. But yeah, I definitely like the red outlining on the screen. I think that looks a lot better than what they normally do with kind of like the blue theme for the screen. But yeah, response time on the screen is really good. It's easy to use, and I mean, it's got all your regular stuff. You got radio, you can hook up your phone, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's all for the infotainment system. Down below, we do have some more stuff happening here. We've got the red stop start button. And again, I kind of just like the red here. I think red looks better on Hondas than blue. That's just my opinion. Sorry if I offended anyone. You've got the dual zone climate controls right here, and you can control all that via all those little buttons right there. Got some extra storage space happening here. And then you can see you've got a little power outlet and then some USBs. And then you could use that kind of like as some extra storage there in the front. Couple of cup holders, and then we've got our gear select system here. So you've got your park, reverse, neutral, and then drive. Then you press again, and that'll pop it over into the kind of like sport mode basically. So like if we put it into drive, and then you press S, and then you can see that, but then you can go into the manual mode. So then you basically can do the S for the sport mode, and then you can press the paddle, and then that'll pop you into the manual mode. And then if you hold the plus paddle, then that'll pop you back into the automatic mode. So you can do the sport mode in automatic mode or manual mode, whatever you prefer. And then if you press it again, then that'll put it back into drive. But that's the transmission. We have a couple more controls here. You've got the auto stop start, and then this is kind of like your other drive mode select to an extent. So this one pops up here in the center screen right there. So it says intelligent traction management. So you've got normal, snow, mud, and sand. The reason I say drive mode is, well, it kind of is, even though this is more like to the traction system, I mean, you're still going to use it depending on the driving location. Anyways, got the center console right here, which is actually really big for a mid-sized truck. And then you have more like little charging things here at the bottom. Hopefully you guys can kind of see the action happening down there. But if you don't like it, then you just cover it all up. And then I really like the trim that goes across right there. That's pretty nice. Normal sized glove box in that little area, but that's all for that. Up top here, we've got a sunglass holder like what most vehicles have, except it's kind of interesting, like the little kind of thing right there on the side. Traditional mirror, and then this does have a lighter colored headliner. Now that we're done going through the interior on this Ridgeline in the HPD package, let's quickly get into the pricing. So in terms of pricing, with all the extra equipment this particular truck has, it stickers for about $44,000 before any type of market adjustment. If you guys are wondering, the addition of the lift and tires has added about $4,000 to this particular truck. That all being said, let's take this Ridgeline out and see how she drives. Well, let's talk about visibility here on the Ridgeline before we set off. So first off, visibility over the hood for a truck is really good. It's just like the hood doesn't get in the way whatsoever pretty much. There's your visibility through both of the mirrors. And then here's throughout the rest of the rear, which it kind of feels more like a mini SUV than a truck from a visibility standpoint, which is pretty cool. But that all being said, let's set off. We are setting off here in this lifted Ridgeline, and I mean, the roads are pretty, you know, just wet today, but it is snowing. So I mean, this kind of like somewhat counts as like a snow drive, okay? I'm gonna take it, guys. But first off, let's talk about the road noise and ride quality. So from a ride quality perspective, this thing rides like a car. Like, it's exceptionally smooth. I'm really impressed with that because, I mean, trucks nowadays, all of them ride relatively smooth, but like this is on a whole nother level. Like it really has that like car quality from a ride quality standpoint. And then in terms of the noise insulation, I rated it average for a mid-sized pickup truck. It's pretty much right where it needs to be. And it's perfect that I drove a Tacoma yesterday so I can really kind of feel the difference between the two trucks. I definitely like the all-wheel drive system here in the Ridgeline, especially, well, when you've got inclement weather like this that just randomly gets crazy out of nowhere here in Utah. It's nice to have the extra grip from the all-wheel drive system. Now I am gonna pop it over into the sport mode, and then I'm also gonna pop it over into the manual mode so that I can do everything myself right here. But yeah, so far I'm really impressed with this Ridgeline. It drives really smooth, it's quiet in the interior, and the seats are very comfortable as well. It's another nice high point here with the Ridgeline, but looks like we can get our acceleration here and race this Prius. So the gear shifts with that 9-speed automatic when you press the paddles are relatively responsive. I'm guessing the automatic mode's probably going to be better. I've noticed with Hondas, it seems like the automatic mode for most of their cars is better, so I'm going to slow down here a little bit. I mean, it's sixes with this, so like automatic mode or manual mode, they both drive about the same in terms of how they feel. The gear shifts are really smooth though. Like the transition from gear to gear is very smooth with the truck, and I just totally put the fuel economy down to 4.6 miles per gallon. That, I don't know how that happened, but I guess it happened. But let's get into summing things up with this Ridgeline. So first off, from an exterior aesthetics perspective, the Ridgeline's pretty interesting because it kind of looks like an SUV from the front end, and then it's got a truck bed on the back, which kind of gives it this interesting look. It's definitely different, flies under the radar. Now this Ridgeline with the lift, how's the lift? How does it drive with the lift? I think it drives really smooth. This is one of the few vehicles that's lifted that I don't hate. And I know it sounds bad, but I really don't like lifted vehicles. They usually drive really rough. They have way more body roll. I mean, it makes sense, right? You put the center of gravity higher up, you're gonna have more body roll. But this really doesn't drive bad with the lift. Like you get the benefit of it looks cooler, you get a little bit more ground clearance, and you can put more tire under it, and it still like drives great. Like this is really smooth. And I kind of remember how the 2020 Ridgeline drove, because I didn't drive that too long ago, and this really doesn't drive that. Like if you drove this back to back with a stock Ridgeline, then yes, you'd be able to perceive a slight difference. But if you've never driven a Ridgeline before and then you popped into this lifted one, you would just think that this is a really smooth driving truck and you'd really like it. Auto stop start's really seamless as well. So yeah, I think it's a good looking truck. I love the gold wheels, especially against the black paint on this particular truck. I think this lift was done really well. It looks good and it doesn't ruin the ride quality of the truck. And I mean, even if you don't lift it, the tires that this truck has, that's kind of like the first mod I would do on a Ridgeline if I owned one, just so that I could get a little bit better traction, and then it definitely makes the truck look a whole lot better. But yeah, this 21 Ridgeline is really nice. Now, that is going to sum things up for our video on this 2021 Honda Ridgeline in the HPD package. And again, a huge shout out and thank you to Stockton 12 Honda here in Utah for giving me some time with this Ridgeline. Check out their inventory in the link below. I'll see all of you in the next video.